Felix Baumgartner, a name that once echoed around the world as the man who dared to fall from the edge of space, has now tragically fallen in a way no one expected. The Austrian daredevil, base jumper, and skydiver, renowned for his audacious and death-defying feats, lost his life in a devastating paragliding accident on a quiet Thursday in the coastal town of Porto Sant'Egidio, Italy. He was only 56 years old. According to early reports, the man whose entire life had been about mastering the skies suddenly found himself at the mercy of a tragic twist of fate, one that would claim the life of a global icon. Italian news outlet Sky TG24, affiliated with CNN, reported that Baumgartner was flying a motorized paraglider when something went horribly wrong. Witnesses described the scene as both sudden and surreal. One moment the paraglider was gracefully drifting through the air, and the next, it had spiraled out of control and plummeted toward the earth, crashing directly into a hotel swimming pool. The fall was violent and abrupt, and Felix reportedly died instantly upon impact. The apparatus also struck a woman near the pool, though miraculously, she sustained only minor injuries. The Italian authorities have since launched an investigation into the exact cause of the crash. But as of now, the skies that once carried Baumgartner in triumph have offered no answers. The town of Porto Sant'Egidio, a place more accustomed to peaceful sea breezes and sun-kissed tourists, was suddenly plunged into mourning. Mayor Massimiliano Trapella took to Facebook shortly after the news broke, offering a heartfelt tribute to the fallen legend. In his post, he described Baumgartner not just as an adventurer but as a symbol of courage, a man who dared to do what others wouldn't even dream of. The mayor's words echoed the feelings of thousands across the globe who had followed Felix's career and been inspired by his fearlessness, his determination, and his undying love for the skies. Life was anything but ordinary. Born in Salzburg, Austria, in 1969, he grew up with a fascination for flight. While other children dreamed of toys and cartoons, Felix imagined soaring through the air. That passion led him to become one of the most iconic figures in extreme sports history. Throughout his life, he chased the boundaries of what humans believed was possible. From base jumping off the Petronas Towers in Kuala Lumpur to leaping from the outstretched arms of the Christ, the Redeemer statue in Rio de Janeiro, Baumgartner transformed death-defying stunts into a form of art. Each jump was a poem of motion, a narrative of human will against gravity, fear, and reason itself. But it was on October 14, 2012, that Baumgartner truly became immortal in the eyes of millions. That day, he ascended to the stratosphere in a pressurized capsule lifted by a massive helium balloon, aiming to perform a jump that had never been done before, a freefall from nearly 24 miles above the Earth. The event, dubbed the Red Bull Stratos mission, was far more than just a stunt. It was a calculated risk backed by 6 years of scientific research, planning, and precision engineering. The world watched with bated breath as Felix stepped out of the capsule and stood at the edge of space, staring into the black void above and the swirling blue planet below. In that moment, with nothing but his suit, his courage, and the thin air between him and the Earth, Felix paused. Later, in an interview with CNN's Patrick Snell, he would recall that singular instant. "I'm standing there on top of the world, outside of a capsule, in space and in the stratosphere," he said. "I looked around, the sky above me was completely black." That moment, he explained, was something he tried to inhale, to absorb with every fiber of his being. He wasn't just falling, he was embracing the ultimate human experience. It was about testing limits, about what it means to be alive. As he jumped, the world collectively held its breath. Felix accelerated through the thin atmosphere, reaching a staggering speed of over 840 miles per hour. He didn't just fall, he broke the sound barrier, becoming the first human being to do so in a free fall without any form of engine-powered assistance. The sheer magnitude of what he accomplished that day was a defining point not only in sports history but in human history. It was a moment that reminded the world of what was still possible in an age when people believed there were no more frontiers left to conquer. The Red Bull Stratos mission wasn't just a publicity stunt. It was a meticulously orchestrated scientific endeavor that had implications far beyond the adrenaline-fueled world of extreme sports. Engineers, doctors, and aerospace scientists worked hand in hand to ensure every single variable was accounted for. They studied everything from the effects of rapid acceleration on the human body to the challenges of communication in near-space conditions. Every suit seam, every button, every strap, was designed for perfection, And at the center of it all was a man who was willing to put his life on the line to prove that humans could push just a little further. Red Bull, the sponsor that stood with Baumgartner through it all, released a statement following his death that expressed the overwhelming sense of loss felt by those who knew him. "We are shocked and overwhelmed with sadness to hear the devastating news of our longtime friend Felix Baumgartner," the statement began. They went on to describe him as someone who was born to fly, a man who didn't just challenge limits but redefined them. Red Bull's tribute painted a picture of a man who was not only daring but also deeply meticulous, professional, and kind. Felix, they said, never left anything to chance. He was not a reckless thrill-seeker, he was a thoughtful, brilliant man who inspired millions. In the aftermath of his record-breaking jump, Felix became a symbol of what it meant to take calculated risks. He didn't fade into obscurity. Instead, he used his platform to speak about courage, ambition, and human potential. He remained active in aviation, took on consulting roles, and continued to seek new ways to challenge himself and the world. He spoke at events, mentored young adventurers, and even flew helicopters for mountain rescue missions, proving that his bravery extended far beyond headline-grabbing stunts. But what perhaps made Felix Baumgartner so beloved was not just his accomplishments, it was the way he carried himself. He had a quiet intensity, a presence that made people listen. He wasn't boastful or arrogant. He knew the risks he took and never pretended they were anything less than dangerous. When asked why he did what he did, he often spoke about living life to its fullest, about the beauty of confronting fear rather than running from it. He saw life not as something to be preserved in safety, but as something to be lived boldly, authentically, and unapologetically. That philosophy is what drew people to him. In an era saturated with influencers and hollow fame, Felix represented something real. He didn't need a reality show or viral videos, his actions spoke for themselves. He was a man who had looked into the abyss and smiled. A man who had felt the silent, freezing void of space press against his suit and decided to jump anyway. A man who turned fear into fuel. News of his death has sent ripples through the global community of adventurers, athletes, and dreamers. Tributes have poured in from fans and fellow daredevils alike, many of whom credit Baumgartner with inspiring their own journeys. Social media platforms have been flooded with videos of his famous jump, with comments mourning the loss of a legend and celebrating the legacy he leaves behind. People from all walks of life, scientists, students, sports enthusiasts, and everyday admirers are sharing stories of how that one moment in 2012 changed the way they viewed the world, how it made them believe, even if just for a second, that anything was possible, and now, that fearless heart has stopped beating. The man who once soared higher than any skydiver in history has been grounded forever. The skies that once carried him have now claimed him. There is something painfully poetic about his final moments, dying while doing what he loved most. In the air, surrounded by the wind and the clouds. It's a reminder that even the boldest among us are still bound by fate, by gravity, by the fragility of life.